Good evening. We often think of World War II in terms of simple black and white, Allies versus Axis. We recall the names of famous generals and major battles. But if you look closely at the edges of the conflict, you find stories so complex, so unbelievable, they challenge everything we think we know about loyalty, identity, and the sheer randomness of fate in wartime. I want to tell you about a man named Yang Kyoungjong. He was not a general, not a spy, and certainly not a volunteer. He was a simple Korean man whose life was violently reshaped by the imperial ambitions of three separate world powers. His journey is a perfect, tragic microcosm of the global conflict. Our story begins in 1938. Korea was, at the time, a Japanese colony. The Empire of Japan needed men for its ongoing conflict with the Soviet Union along the border of Manchuria. At the age of 18, Yang Kyoungjong was not asked to serve. He was conscripted into the Imperial Japanese Army. He was sent to the brutal, frozen chaos of the Battle of Khalkhin-Gol. He fought for the Japanese, not out of allegiance to the emperor, but at gunpoint. It was here in 1939 that he was captured by the victorious Soviet Red Army. Now, a prisoner of war, his nightmare simply shifted. Instead of being sent home, Yang was deemed a useful resource. The Soviets needed bodies to fight the coming conflict with Germany, and they often pressed prisoners from occupied or captured nations into service. Yang Kyoungjong was forcibly put into a labor battalion, given a Soviet uniform, and sent west to fight for the Soviet Union. He was now fighting the war on the Eastern Front, possibly in Ukraine, a man completely divorced from his home, fighting a war that was not his own, for an army that had imprisoned him. Fate, however, was not finished with him. In the harrowing fighting of 1943, as the Soviets battled the advance of the German forces, Yang Kyoungjong was captured a second time. This time he fell into the hands of the Wehrmacht, the German army. The Germans, themselves desperate for manpower after the devastating losses on the Eastern Front, had a policy of forming Osttruppen, or Eastern troops, made up of Soviet prisoners, Ukrainians, Georgians, and anyone else they could press into service. Once again, Yang Kyoungjong found himself in a new uniform. He was given a German helmet, a German rifle, and stationed in Western Europe, specifically on the coast of France. He was now a soldier in the army of Nazi Germany, tasked with defending Hitler's Atlantic Wall against the expected Allied invasion. This man, born in Korea, was now thousands of miles away, wearing a uniform he despised, waiting for an attack from the opposite side of the world. Then came the day that changed the war, June 6, 1944. As the American paratroopers and infantry stormed the beaches of Normandy, they encountered the German defenses. During the fierce fighting on the Cherbourg Peninsula, American troops captured a cluster of German soldiers who were dazed, starving, and terrified. As they processed the prisoners, the American soldiers and officers were astonished. Among the captured German troops who spoke various Eastern European languages, they found one man who looked distinctly different. He had Asian features, and when questioned, he could only communicate in a smattering of Japanese and broken Russian. That man was Yang Kyoungjong. He had fought for the Japanese in Asia, the Soviets in Eastern Europe, and the Germans in France. He was a non-ideological casualty caught in the gears of three massive clashing ideologies. The American soldiers and officers were utterly baffled. Who was this man? A spy? A defector? The truth was far more simple and heartbreaking. He was just a prisoner of the war machine. He was transferred to a POW camp in Great Britain. Yang Kyoungjong survived the war. He did not return to the political turmoil of his native Korea. Instead, he immigrated to the United States, settled in Illinois, and lived out the rest of his days in quiet anonymity until his death in 1992. His story, though often debated in specific detail, stands as a brutal reminder of the millions of forgotten lives caught in the sweeping tide of World War II. People whose only desire was to go home, but who were forced by empire after empire to kill and to risk dying for causes that were never their own. He is the ultimate involuntary soldier, the Korean who fought for 3 armies, reminding us that sometimes the most interesting parts of history are not the names on the victory plaques, but the faces hidden beneath 3 different, forced uniforms.